If you know anything at all, then you know that U2 has been with us all week, and we didn't know what we were getting into, and they turned out to be tremendous. I mean, the music every night, it's just thrilling. Standing ovation. And by the way, I believe tonight they're going to be doing 2 songs, one on the show here, yeah, and then an extra song for the live audience. Am I right about that? So, do me a favor now. Please welcome Bono, The Edge, Larry Mullen Jr., and Adam Clayton. You too, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. You too, everybody. You guys know, and maybe you didn't know, but at some point you became aware of the fact that the Ed Sullivan Theater in the 60s, all of the great rock and roll acts appeared here on the same stage. The Beatles, for example. We must have been aware of that, right?
You had the Beatles on your show?
Yes.
Wow. Looking good, Dave.
That's
Looking
right.
good.
We had the Beatles right here. Oh, but when you were kids?
We're one of their biggest influences.
Yeah. Is that fun to be on this venue where these guys were?
It's an amazing theater that you've got here. Your people, the way you've treated us this week. It's been an amazing week. And yeah, you know, the Beatles wrote the blueprint, really, for any rock and roll band. They make any kind of miserable band that says they don't want to be in a big band look like liars. Everyone wants to be in the Beatles. I think that's the first thing.
The origin of this group, you started, I guess, when you guys were in high school, more or less, right? And Larry, you started the band. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. And
He keeps reminding us of this fact about once every week.
but it makes the story even more remarkable that as kids you got together and are still together now. What were the early days, what were the nascent stages of this group like?
Well, Dave, I think it's important to point out that, you know, when I put that notice on the board, I asked for 3 other good-looking guys who could play, and this is what I ended up with. So, you know.
But were there other personnel in the original gathering?
Yes, there were another 2 gentlemen, Edge's brother Dick, who actually built his own guitar, and so he was allowed in the band just because of that.
He made his own guitar.
Yeah, and there was another gentleman as well, and he had a guitar, because as I say, the whole idea was that these guys would come along, they'd be really good looking, and they would have instruments. Of course, they didn't have instruments. So I then had to find other people who did have instruments, who were good looking. Of course, when Bono came in, they got fired.
Yeah.
And I was relegated to being the drummer and hitting things.
And the original name, it was really the Larry Mullen Jr. band originally?
Yeah. I think it was for
about 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
maybe 6.
Then what was it after that?
It was Feedback.
Feedback. Oh,
And
Feedback.
And that was to do with Edge's made-up guitar.
Yeah.
There was a lot of squealing and very loud kind of distortion coming out of the amplifier.
Now,
that's why we decided.
looking back on it, and everybody who pursues something as long as we all have, you hope that you get better. So looking back on it, how were your skills when you first began?
Pretty bad.
Really?
In fact, one of our very first shows, we had 2 guest singers, 2 girls. And an hour before we were due to go on stage, they cornered me and said, "Edge, would you sing? Bono can't sing."
Well.
Now,
No friends in New York?
they said then, "Would you sing?" And I said, "What? I can't sing." Had they given me 2 hours, maybe I might have. It was 1 hour before the first show.
You guys were appeared at the mall for the inauguration, and many other monumental historical appearances in Germany for the crumbling of the wall.
20 years ago this year.
20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah. I mean, that alone, just to have that in your scrapbook, to have that on your resume, that's a tremendous thing to be a part of.
We recorded an album in Berlin, actually, at this time, called Achtung Baby, and we were the last... thank you. We were the last plane to land in the old Berlin, and it was a British Airways flight. And we were landing in Berlin, and he had the sky to himself, and it was kind of very British. He was going, you know, on the left, you'll see the Brandenburg Gate. We're going round on the right. Now, he was just flying around for hours. And when we got on the ground, we were a little, wow, this is kind of history, isn't it? And we went to find the party, because we're in a rock and roll band, and we do that type of thing. And so we went out on the streets. This is for real. And we got into this party, just people marching on the streets, and they were looking really sad and kind of dour. And then we said, wow, these Germans they really don't know how to party, do they? But we were in the wrong parade. We were, in fact, we were marching with Stalinists against the wall coming down. This is the truth. Wow. That is the truth.
Ouch.
We never quite got the rock and roll thing down over the last 30 years. We can't do it just right.
Adam, is there anything you want to add to this before we wrap it up? I know you're on the end. That doesn't mean we're excluding you.
There's obviously been a clear case of instrument envy, and Sting and myself have 4 thick, long strings, and he's got 6 girly ones.
All right. Not sure what that means, but... Anyway, again, and I can't say it enough, thank you very much for your generosity and great talent here all this week. You too. We'll be right back with music from you too.